The final bid, the lights above the auction hall flickered. Hundreds of aliens from across the galaxy filled the large metal room. Some had claws, others had glowing eyes. Many wore dark cloaks. All were rich. All were dangerous. This was not a place for the weak. The auction was almost over. Slaves from many planets had already been sold, fighters, machines, even telepaths. One by one, they had gone to the highest bidder. Now, only one cage remained. A large steel box stood at the center of the room. Inside, it sat a girl. She looked young. Her skin shimmered like silver in the light. Her long black hair flowed even without wind. But her eyes, they were strange. Bright violet, glowing faintly. She said nothing. She didn't move. The auctioneer, a tall, red-skinned alien, stepped forward. He cleared his throat and spoke loudly. The last item of the day, untamed, extremely dangerous species, unknown. She has killed 3 guards with her mind. She is not trained, no refunds. A quiet fear moved through the crowd. Even the bravest aliens stepped back. No one wanted her. No one dared. The auctioneer waited. Starting bid, 1 million credits. No one raised a hand. He tried again. 500,000. Still, silence. She sat calmly in the cage, watching, listening, waiting. Just when the auctioneer was about to give up, a hand rose from the shadows. Everyone turned. A man walked forward, human. He wore a long dark coat and simple clothes. His face was calm, almost bored. His name was Kale. The room whispered. A human. Here, humans were rare in this part of space, and this one just bid on the most dangerous item. The auctioneer looked surprised but pleased. 1 bidder, sold. The cage unlocked. The girl was handed over. 2 guards came forward, hesitating, and placed a control bracelet on her wrist. It glowed blue. Kale took it from them and guided the girl forward. She walked silently, but her eyes stayed on him, sharp. Watching, they exited the auction hall. The large doors shut behind them with a heavy thud as they walked through the cold halls of the space station. Kale finally spoke. You don't have to say anything. I just want you safe. The girl didn't respond. They reached the docking bay. A small ship waited for them. Kale pressed a button and the door opened. Inside, it was quiet and clean. Nothing special. She entered without speaking. Kale followed and locked the door. They sat in silence as the ship began to rise. Suddenly, she turned to him. Her voice was calm, soft but cold. You don't know what I am? Kale looked at her. Maybe, but I think I know what you're not. She tilted her head. And what is that? You're not a slave. Not anymore. She stared at him for a moment. Then her eyes flashed. Just for a second. The lights flickered. I could kill you right now, she said. Kale nodded. You could, but you haven't. They flew in silence for a few minutes. Finally, she spoke again. Why did you buy me? Kale looked out the window. Stars passed by like rivers of light. He answered slowly. Because I've been looking for you. She narrowed her eyes. You don't even know my name. Kale smiled just slightly. Yes, I do. It's Nayari. She froze. How do you know that? Kale didn't answer. Instead, he stood up and walked toward the control panel. Kay pressed a few buttons, setting course for a small, distant system. Behind him, Nayari stared. For the first time, her face showed something other than silence, confusion, and maybe a small trace of fear. Who was this human? Why did he know her name? And what did he really want? As the ship jumped into faster than light speed, Nayari whispered something only she could hear. You're either very brave or very stupid. Then her eyes glowed once more. The lights flickered again, and something deep inside the ship powered. On a system that Kale didn't touch, something ancient dot, something waking up. Asterix space was silent. Inside the ship, only the quiet hum of engines filled the air. Stars stretched like white lines across the black screen in front of the pilot's chair. Kale stood alone in the control room, watching them pass. Behind him, the Grenier sat in a corner of the ship, still chained. Not by metal anymore, but by something deeper, something inside her. She hadn't said a word in hours, but she was thinking, watching, waiting. Kale opened a metal drawer and pulled out an old photograph. It was faded, small, and wrinkled. In the picture, a group of human soldiers, smiling. On a desert planet, one of them was Kale, and next to him, barely visible, was a glowing-eyed child. Silver skin, dark hair. It was her. He stared at the photo for a moment, then burned it in a small flame unit on the wall. Nairi's voice came from Mei Nei. Mei Mei's voice came from behind. You knew me before. He didn't turn around. Yes, you were one of them. Kale nodded slowly. Once, but not anymore. She stood up, eyes glowing just slightly. Her voice was sharp now. Then tell me the truth. Why did you really buy me? Kale finally turned. Because I saw what they did to you, he said. And I couldn't forget. Flashback. 12 years ago, a small alien child stood in a cage. Wires ran into her back. Scientists took notes. Military officers watched through glass. A young Kale, then a soldier walked past her. Their eyes met. She was scared. He looked away, but that image stayed with him forever. Back in the present, Nyari stared at him, her hands clenched. So now, you come to save me, she said bitterly, after all these years. I didn't come to save you, Kale replied. I came to help you remember who you are. Later, Kale sat at the console, scanning her body's readings. She had a neural lock in her spine. Advanced tech. Invisible, it blocked her full powers. It could only be deactivated using a code from the original lab, or destroyed with a rare, alien frequency. He had neither, but he had a plan. He typed in a course change. Destination, Planet Sedge-Scaf, a dangerous outlaw world, but also home to one of the last signal breakers in the galaxy. If anyone could help free Nairi's mind, it was there. He turned to her. We're going to Zephyr. She didn't answer, but her eyes flickered with the tiniest spark of interest. As they approached the planet's edge, something blinked on Kale's radar. Another ship, fast, small. Armed Nyari saw it too. Someone followed us, she said. Kale jumped into the pilot's seat. Get ready. Get ready for what? She asked. To run. The enemy ship fired without warning. Lasers ripped past the window. Alarms screamed. The ship shook hard. Kale pulled the controls sharply. Hold on. They flew low through the planet's rings, dodging debris in the chaos. Nyari closed her eyes. The lights flickered. Kale, she shouted. Turn left now. He did. A rock chunk missed them by inches. He glanced back at her. You saw that? Coming. I felt it, she said. Even through the block. He grinned. Then we might just make it. They crash-landed near an old mining camp on ZEPHAR-6. The ship was damaged, but safe. Smoke rose in the distance. Kale checked for injuries. You okay? Nyari nodded, but her voice was cold again. I didn't do it to save you. I just didn't. Want to die here? Kale smiled. Fair enough. They stepped out into the dust-filled air of ZEPHAR-6. The camp was abandoned. Broken machines. Empty towers. But something moved in the shadows. Kale raised his hand. Stay behind me, a cloaked figure stepped forward. A long tail swung behind him. Human, the figure said. You're either brave or very stupid. Kale lowered his weapon. I'm here to see the breaker. The creature tilted his head. She's not easy to find. Kale gestured toward. Nyeri, she's not easy to chain. The creature looked at Nyeri and backed away slowly. He had seen her kind before, but only once, and he still had the scars. Later that night, as they rested in the broken camp, Nyeri stood on the roof. She looked up at the stars. They will come for me, she said softly. Kale joined her. Then we'll be ready. She turned to him. Her voice was different now. Why risk everything for me? He looked into her glowing eyes. Because I believe the galaxy is wrong about you, he said. And maybe you're the only one strong enough to stop them. Nyeri said nothing, but behind her, a small crack of energy lit up the air. A signal had been triggered, and far away. In the dark cold of space, bounty ships turned toward Zephyr 6. The winds on Zephyr 6 carried dust like whispers. It was a dead planet. No birds, no trees, no sky. Only ash-colored clouds and the broken skeletons of old machines. Nyeri stood alone among the ruins of a forgotten mining tower, her eyes closed. Breathing the silence, for a moment, she felt something stir inside her, a memory or a warning. Kale watched her from below. His hand hovered near the sidearm at his belt knot, because he feared her, but because he feared what might come for her. She hadn't spoken since last night. Since that tiny flare of power lit up around her, like lightning behind her eyes. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. The local guidef you could call a half-mad. Tail-swinging alien a guide told them the signal breaker lived underground, beneath the blackened soil. She didn't like strangers, and she didn't work. For free, they followed a narrow path between rusted metal spires. The air was thick with heat. No sun, just a glowing red sky that never changed. After an hour, they found a door. Or something like a door. It pulsed like it was breathing. Kale stepped forward. We're here for the girl, he said. A voice, mechanical and female, echoed from the air itself. There is no girl. Nyeri spoke then, for the first time that day. There is, but she's buried. The door opened. They walked into the dark. Inside, they found her, the signal breaker. A woman, but not fully alive. Metal wires ran into her spine and skull. Her eyes glowed blue. She looked at Nyeri without blinking. I know what you are, she said. NYAR. I didn't flinch. Then you know what I want. You want freedom, said the machine woman. But freedom comes with pain. I already know pain, Nyeri answered. The breaker moved forward and reached for her neck. Kale stepped between them. Wait. Nyeri's voice was calm. Let her. The breaker touched her back, right where the neural lock was buried. A soft hum filled the room. Nyeri's body, TENSED. Then dash, nothing, a flash of light. She collapsed. Kale caught her before she hit the ground. The breaker said one word. Done. He laid Nyeri down gently. What did you do? I weakened the chain, said the breaker. The rest is up to her. Kale didn't understand. What does that mean? But the breaker was already fading, walking backward into the dark. She will either become herself or become a weapon. The door closed behind her. They were alone again. Hours passed. Nyeri didn't wake. Kale stayed by her side, checking her pulse, watching her breathing. Then, slowly, her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened, but they weren't just glowing. They were burning. She sat up, fast, too fast. Kale stepped back. Nyeri looked around like she didn't recognize the room, or herself. Then, suddenly, her hand lifted and every light in the room exploded. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Nyeri. Kale said carefully, Can you hear me? She turned to him, her eyes wide. Her voice shook. They were inside me, talking, controlling. I couldn't hear myself before. He moved closer, but now I hear everything. And then something new happened. The ground shook, not the room. The planet Kale rushed to the screen. A storm, huge and black, was forming on the horizon. "Did you do that?" he asked. Nairi's face was pale. "I didn't mean to." The storm spun faster. Kale turned to her. "We need to leave." "I don't think I can stop it," she whispered. The door behind them burst open. 3 bounty hunters entered, heavily armed, alien faces, masked and cold. "We've come for the girl," one said. Nair stood. Her hair floated upward. The floor cracked beneath her feet. "No," she said. "You came for the wrong one." A wave of invisible energy knocked all 3 hunters into the wall. Their weapons shattered. Their bodies didn't move. Nairi fell to her knees. Gasping, Kale ran to her. "You need to control it." "I can't. It's too much." He grabbed her arms. "Then we learned together." Outside, the storm reached the sky, swallowing the horizon in black wind. The planet groaned. The neural block was broken, and so was the silence inside her, far above. In orbit, dozens of red dots appeared on enemy radar screens. Fleet Command had found her, and they were coming. Hard, fast, and armed for war. Asterisk, the first sound was a whisper, not from a person, but from space itself. A low hum, like the breath of a predator. Ships, sleek, silent, and deadly. Sliding into orbit above Zephyr 6 like shadows preparing to strike. Inside the broken mining tower, Kale watched the radar screen. Dots multiplied. Red, aggressive. No. Response to hails. No delay. No warning. "They're here," he said. NYARI stood behind him, silent. Her face was pale, but her eyes held the same wild glow that had cracked the walls yesterday. Her breath was steady, but something inside her had changed. Power didn't just flow through her anymore, it leaked. She didn't ask who they were. She already knew. The ones who had built the cage. The ones who sold her mind piece by piece. The ones who marked her species as dangerous, destroyed -on-site. Kale turned. "We have maybe 20 minutes. If that, then we run," she said, calm but cold. He shook his head. "They'll track the ship before we can break orbit." Nairi's gaze moved toward the storm outside. The sky still boiled from her earlier outburst. Thick clouds spinning like a warning sign to the stars. "They're not coming to capture me," she said. "They're coming to erase me." Kale checked the ship's fuel cells. "We still have an option. The smuggler tunnels under the planet, maybe they still work. You think I should hide?" she asked, voice almost amused. "I think you should survive," Kale said. "There's a difference." Nairi said nothing. Outside, a beam of red light pierced the sky. A signal, a scan. They had locked on by nightfall. The first ship broke the clouds. Black metal, shaped like a spearhead, moving like a beast. It hovered, waiting, not firing. Not yet inside the mining site. Nairi sat near a broken generator. She was humming softly. Kale couldn't recognize the tune. "Where'd you learn that?" he asked. Her answer came slowly. "My mother." Before they took her, Kale said nothing. He remembered reading the files years ago, back when he still wore the uniform. The galaxy's governments had labeled her kind as too unpredictable, not evil. Not monsters, just impossible to control, too powerful to exist, so they were hunted, traded, dismantled, one by one. Then the message came. A voice, broadcast on all local channels. "Attention, this is Galactic Control. You are harboring a Class 7 bioweapon. Surrender the target, or this site will be purged." Kale turned off the screen. Nairi was already standing. They call me a weapon, she said. Maybe I should start acting like one. He stepped toward her. Don't let them decide who you are. She looked at him for a long time and then quietly asked, Then who am I? Cale didn't have the answer, but the ground did. It shook again, not from her this time, but from landing gear, dropships, troops. They were coming in. Fast, Cale grabbed his bag. We're going underground, now. The old tunnels beneath the mines stank of oil and burnt metal. Lights flickered above them as they moved deeper. Dust clung to the air like ghosts. Cale led the way with a wrist scanner. Nyari walked close, behind hand occasionally brushing the wall. There's something down here, she whispered. Alive? He asked. She nodded. Old, angry. He scanned the wall. There's a sealed vault up ahead. Unregistered tech. Could be a power source or a trap. They reached it in silence. The vault was round, made of black stone instead of metal. Alien, not human-built. Nyari stepped forward and placed her palm against it. The stone pulsed. Then, ... opened. Inside was darkness. A silence that was loud. Tal raised his weapon. Do we go in? Nyari didn't answer. She was already walking. The room inside was massive. It wasn't just underground. It was ancient. Circular walls lined with strange symbols. In the center, a platform. On it, a throne made of crystal and light. Nyari stared. I've seen this place, she said. Cale looked confused. When? In my dreams. She walked to the platform and placed both hands on the throne. It reacted. Light surged up her arms. Not burning dash, accepting something in the air, changed. Like the planet itself had taken a breath, Cale watched, stunned. What is this place? He asked, Nair. I looked over her shoulder. It's not just a mine, she said softly. It's a memory. Above ground, the Galactic Control Commander received a sudden signal, a massive energy spike, unknown origin. Then, silence, no readings, just blackness, like the planet had. Disappeared, he stood slowly and whispered to his crew, Send the whole fleet, because whatever just woke up wasn't human, wasn't friendly, and wasn't going to stay quiet. Smoke curled through the cracks in the earth like fingers reaching for the sky. The surface of Zephyr 6 was no longer still, trembled quietly. Like something ancient was breathing just beneath the soil bare below, where light couldn't reach. Nyari sat motionless on the crystal throne. Her eyes were open, glowing softly now, like twin stars. Around her, the symbols on the walls pulsed once every few seconds. Like a heartbeat, Cale didn't know whether to feel awe or fear. He had seen powerful beings before. He had fought alongside cyborgs, bioweapons, even machines that thought they were gods. But this was different. Nyari wasn't just powerful now. She was connected. You're not the same, he said. Her voice came back slower than usual, quieter, like it was echoing through layers of thought. No, I remember things now, not just my life, my kind, my world. She looked up, her gaze far away. They didn't make us weapons. They woke us up too early. We were never meant for war. Cale stepped closer. Then why are they still hunting you? Nyari's smile was bitter. Because they're afraid I'll finish waking up. He wanted to ask more, but the ground above them answered first. A boom, then another. Shock waves cracked the stone. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cale checked his wrist monitor. They've started bombing the surface. Grid pattern. They're going to collapse the tunnels. Nyar didn't move. We need to go, he said urgently. Still, she sat. Cale, she whispered, there's something you need to see. The throne flared with light, and suddenly he wasn't in the tunnel anymore. He stood in a field of red grass. Under a purple sky, twin moons hung above him. Wind moved slowly across the land like a sigh. Ahead, a city floated in. The air, not metal, not stone, light, pure and beautiful. Beside him, Nyari stood barefoot, younger, laughing. Her eyes sparkled not with power, but joy. "This was our world," her voice said beside him. "Before the humans came. Before the fear." Kale turned. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to know what they took," she said, "and what you helped destroy." He felt it then, jilt, heavy and sharp. He'd worn the uniform. He'd followed the orders. Maybe he hadn't fired the shot, but he'd stood by. The vision shattered. They were back in the chamber. The ground shook harder now. Part of the ceiling caved in. Kale shielded her from falling debris. Enough memories. "We have to move." Nyari finally stood, and the throne dimmed behind her. Outside, the ship was gone, buried under stone and fire. But something else waited at the edge of the valley. A dropship, open, running. Not there's Kale, Squinted. Two figures stood in front of it. Armed and armored. Hunters. The one in front removed his helmet. Kale froze. "I know him," he whispered. The man's face was scarred, cold, and precise. His name was Commander Brontha, same man who had led the raid on Nyri's planet years ago. The man who called her kind liabilities in need of containment. Bran raised a megaphone. "Human soldier, stand down. The girl is not your mission. She's a galactic threat. Hand her over, and we'll let you walk." Kale looked at Nyra. Her hands were at her sides. No glowing, no power. But her voice carried like thunder. "You came all this way for me, Bran." He didn't blink. "You were never supposed to live." Nyari stepped forward. "Then let me show you what living looks like." Kale grabbed her arm. "We're not ready. You're not ready." She turned to him. "You saw my world, Kale. You saw what they destroyed." "I did," he said. "Then stand with me now." For a second, silence. Then Kale dropped his weapon and stood beside her. Bran gave the signal. The hunters raised their rifles. Kale whispered. Now would be a great time for a miracle. Chire didn't answer. She raised one hand, closed her eyes, and the sky cracked open. Not lightning, not flame, but memory. A wave of energy. A wave of energy. A wave of energy. A wave of energy. Tet has light corial /h. It complays .scref. And lightsly coriaes. Mayets /lied. May lie slay /lies. May way /lied. It's /may show. May slice. May sly x. Wait slide. May slide slide lie slide. Be salide cigar I rewen you it. May I lie I squeak sit to sack I sick it's I sell I sick I to slay I kiss it to see it's better cut I cut it but it's but it up. Bright, living history poured from her body like a storm. The red grass, the floating cities. The ancient light of her people, it all filled the valley like a second dawn. The soldiers froze. Their weapons overheated. Bran dropped to his knees. Blind from the light, Kale watched in silence, and in that moment he knew this wasn't a battle. This was a beginning, but beginnings always come with a price, and above them, far beyond the clouds, something even darker had noticed her. Awakening, something that didn't send soldiers. It sent extinction. *, the message traveled faster than light. skipping across satellites, relay towers, and deep space nodes. It wasn't meant for the public. It wasn't even coded. It didn't need to be. Subject Nyari has breached Level 7 containment. Energy class, unknown. Initiate protocol, black root. Full erasure. No name, no reason, just orders. Somewhere in deep space, a silent ship stirred. It had no crew. No windows. Just a black hull made of something older than metal. It turned slowly, then vanished into jump space destination. ZEPHAR-6, back on the ruined planet. Everything had changed. The air still shimmered with the afterglow of Nyari's outburst. The clouds had split apart, as if afraid to cover the sky. Kale stood at the edge of the crater, where Brand's forces had once stood. There was nothing left of them now. No weapons. No ship. Just melted stone and scorched ground. Nyari sat nearby, arms wrapped around her knees. The glow in her eyes was dim, flickering like a candle in wind. "I didn't mean to destroy them," she said to Kale, didn't answer right away. He didn't know if he should. "They came to erase you," he said quietly. "You defended yourself." She looked up at him. "So that makes it okay?" "No," he admitted, "but it makes it real." Silence again. Not the kind that comforts. The kind that warns. She stood slowly. "You should leave, before more come." Kale shook his head. "I didn't come this far to run." Nyari looked at him, searching for something in his face. "Then what did you come for?" He hesitated. Then answered, not like a soldier, not like a savior. Truth. Later, as night returned to Zephyr 6, they walked through the remains of the underground city. Nyari had awakened. The light from the throne chamber had spread, illuminating walls, doors, machines that had slept for centuries. Symbols moved on the stone, rearranging themselves like they were alive. Nyari ran her fingers across one of the glowing lines. "This wasn't just a city," she whispered. "It was a vault." "A vault for what?" Kale asked. "Memories, weapons, seeds of worlds we never got to finish building." She touched a symbol, and a panel opened. Inside, a small sphere, pulsing blue. She picked it up. It floated in her palm. "I think this is what they really want," she said. Kale leaned closer. "What is it?" "I don't know," she said. "But I think it listens." The sphere pulsed. Once, then again. And Kale heard something. Not a voice in emotion, fear, above the planet. The black ship arrived. It made no sound. It did not ask questions. It opened, and from its dark belly, something dropped. Narrow pod, sharp and sleek. It pierced the sky. It aimed for the city, and it was not empty. I felt it before the alarms went off. Something ancient, cold, hungry. She grabbed Kale's arm. "Run." They didn't wait up through the stone corridors, back into the open air. The stars had gone blocked out by something descending. Something vast and wrong. The pod struck the ground like a knife, and from it rose a being wrapped in black armor, smoke curling from its joints. It had no face, just a smooth helmet with a red slit across it. It turned toward Nyari, didn't speak, and began to walk. Kale pulled his weapon. "Don't." She said, "I'm not letting it near you." "You're not strong enough." Kale smiled grimly. "I know." Then he raised his gun and fired anyway. The blast hit the creature's chest, then vanished like water on fire. The creature raised one hand, and Kale was flung backward through the air, smashing into the ground. Nyari screamed, but the scream wasn't human. It cracked the sky. The earth shook. The creature paused just for a second, and Nyari stood tall. Her hair lifted. Her veins lit with light. "No more cages," she whispered. She raised both hands, and the ground answered. Stone rose like water, forming a wall between her and the invader. The creature stepped forward, slicing it apart. But behind the wall, Nyari moved towards something she hadn't seen before, a doorway, built into the rock. It was marked with a symbol she remembered, a crest of her people. A lock, a choice. She touched it, and everything around her went still. Time bent, space blinked, and inside that chamber, she heard the voices of her ancestors. Not dead, waiting Kale, half-conscious on the ground, saw her vanish into the light. He tried to rise, tried to speak, but something heavy pressed on his chest. Fear, pain, awe, and overhead, the sky bled red. Whatever was coming next would not be a battle. It would be a revelation. There are moments in the life of a galaxy when time seems to pause, not out of peace, but out of fear. Zephyr -6 had become that moment. Above the ruined world, the stars had vanished behind a crimson veil. It wasn't natural. It wasn't weather. It was present, something vast, ancient, and watching, not a fleet, not an army, a force. And it had come for one reason. Nyari was awake. Kale lay in the dirt, body broken, vision blurred. Every breath felt like breathing fire. Somewhere behind his eyes, alarms screamed pain, exhaustion, warning. But none of it mattered, because he saw her, not Nyari as she was when he bought her, not the chained girl in the cage. This was someone else, or maybe this was who she had always been. She floated above the ground, light pulsing from her skin like waves through water. Her eyes glowed white, no, not bright, not loud, just endless. She wasn't shouting. She didn't need to. The world was listening. The black-armored hunter below her raised its hand again, attempting another energy strike. This time, it didn't connect. Nye. I looked at it, just looked, and it stopped existing. Not a sound, not a flash, just absence. Like the universe blinked, and that thing had never been born. Kale tried to speak her name, couldn't. His voice had abandoned him, but she heard him anyway. She turned, and as she floated down beside him, the power around her faded just enough for a single tear to slide down her cheek. I didn't want this, she whispered. He coughed, managed to smile through the blood. You never had a choice. Her hand hovered above his chest. A soft light passed through his skin. The pain vanished, not healed, rewritten like she had convinced reality to give him a second chance. Above them, the crimson sky rippled. A hole tore open, jagged, dark, wide enough to swallow a moon. And from it, the voice came, not in sound, in thought, across the planet, across space, across language. She is too early. She must be undone. Nyari stood, facing the sky. Her voice rose not in volume, but in weight. She is not early, she replied. She is right on time. Then she reached into the air and pulled. Reality bent. The symbols from the ancient chamber exploded across the sky, creating a lattice of pure memory visions of her people. Their cities, their dreams, their end. Everyone on every orbiting ship saw it, and something strange happened. Some of them lowered their weapons down a hidden war room across the galaxy. A general slammed a red button. Abort. Cancel. Retreat. She's not a weapon, he muttered. She's a reckoning. Nyari's voice echoed across the planet, and somehow, beyond it, I am the daughter of light, the keeper of what you tried to erase. I am the first voice of the forgotten. And I remember everything. The tear in the sky began to close, screaming without sound. Reality didn't like being challenged, but it obeyed her, because it knew her, and she was no longer asking. She was declaring. When it was done, and the sky cleared, and the stars returned, she collapsed, Not from weakness, from release, Kale caught her gently. Kneeling in the dust, he held her like a friend. Not a hero. Is it over? He asked. Her voice was so soft he barely heard it. No, but now they'll listen. Far away, on a ship drifting between stars, a small child with silver skin touched her forehead and smiled. They found her, she whispered. We're not alone. And somewhere, buried in a forgotten database, an ancient file lit up. Project Niari. Status: escaped classification, changed. Threat level: undefined new tag applied. Hope: